When I first began what I now refer to as the Friday videos, there were two ongoing series. SRPG Sapphics, which was a look at Fire Emblem from a queer perspective, and Romhack Reviews, which was just that, a series of reviews of Romhacks in the community. As time went on, I added other series, such as Personal Skills, Archetypes, and Tops and Bottoms, but I do still consider Romhacks and queer issues to be the central pillars of my channel. As a result, it was kind of inevitable that I eventually covered the community's effort to port the gay agenda into Fire Emblem Fates and Fire Emblem Awakening. Now, these aren't exactly what we would traditionally call Romhacks so much as they are mods, but they are every bit as much a love letter to Fire Emblem as a Romhack is. And I would say that they are worth checking out both for the excellent writing and the gameplay iterations that they allow. From a gameplay perspective, the newfound bisexuality of the cast allows for many more reclassing options that are not there in vanilla. For example, in Conquest, it is difficult for males to get access to Ninja if they don't inherently have it as part of their kit. However, with the newfound ability to take Kaze to Pound Town, it is now possible for more people than ever to wield daggers. So congratulations to Arthur and Keaton for being two more candidates for Soul Ninja. Now, it is worth noting that this does come with the limitation of taking away some friendships. However, it also adds some friendships. In particular, expanding the support chains for the avatar sexual characters across both games. For the purposes of Fates, this gives characters like Reina and Shura more reclassing options, since they've finally learned about the power of friendship. Now, so far I've been focusing on the mechanical differences in Fates because the reclassing system is much more tied to the support system in Fates than it is in Awakening. However, this next difference will affect both games, and that is a greater degree of freedom for building superpowered child units. You could use this to give your favorite units very strong skills they wouldn't normally have access to. For example, I gave Forrest Quick Draw when I married Takumi and Leo to each other. However, another possibility is just to make something incredibly goofy. In my Rev run, because Keaton was Ignatius' second dad, he had the ability to drop his armor and transform into a beast unit. It's definitely far from optimal because he doesn't start out with a stone rank, but it's also a very funny possibility. In the case of Awakening in particular, Chrom's marriage limitations have been severely lifted. In addition to the possibility of giving Lucina a second dad, such as Frederick or Vike, Chrom can also marry a variety of women that he wasn't able to in vanilla, such as Miriel or Pan. Heck, with the power of this mod, Cordelia can even find herself married to the Exalt. Which is a good demonstration of the fact that despite these mods being called Gay Awakening and Gay Fates, they offer so much more than simply the ability to be gay do crime. If there is a het pairing that you are a fan of but wasn't included in the main game, such as Ryoma Scarlet, these mods can allow you to make it a reality. But beyond that, the new supports are incredibly well written. It is worth noting that not every pairing has a support conversation at the time of writing, but many of them do. And the ones that are complete, I would say, are of uniformly high quality, demonstrating both a love and understanding of these characters. And so, for the rest of the video, I want to highlight a couple of my favorites amongst these supports. So both of these are supports that were paid for in my Revelation Sabotage run, and I ended up enjoying them for different reasons. The first one I want to highlight is a support chain between Niles and Silas. This is one of the male-male added support chains, and it's a little bit non-traditional. The C and B support are supposed to take place on the same evening as each other. Silas and Niles are doing guard duty for this rich noble's party, and both the C and B supports are about what's going on during their guard duty. So there is a little bit of like time wonkiness because you're going to be playing multiple maps in between, and yet this is supposed to be all during the same evening. But honestly, I don't have a big problem with this. It's not even inconsistent with Fates to break the story timeline stuff. For example, a lot of the child paralogs have you in locations in Fateslandia where your army just shouldn't be. If you go to Shiguri's paralog, you're on the ocean, like sailing in the ocean in Fateslandia, even if there's no reason for you to be sailing in the ocean. Like, if you do it late in Conquest, then for some reason you take a break from being deep in enemy territory in Hoshido and just go sailing on the ocean. So you already get instances that break the timeline like this, but I also would argue that supports, even within other Fire Emblem games, often feel like they are a single conversation, and it's weird that they're broken up with each other. You know, you get sort of the meme of like the C conversation, they just talk to each other, and then the B conversation is, you know, 30 days later, hey, so remember that thing we were talking about? Let's continue that conversation. So the fact that this conversation quite literally is supposed to take place all during the same day, it doesn't really matter to me. Like, the Fates timeline is broken, the Fates story is broken. I just think it's cool to focus in on this one conversation. And what's in the conversation is actually pretty neat. So Niles and Silas are playing guard duty for this rich noble's party, and Niles isn't really having it. You know, he doesn't think that it's worth his time to guard this rich noble, and he also doesn't especially want to spend time with Silas. He finds him annoying. But the two of them end up coming upon a conspiracy. They uncover evidence that proves the noble they're guarding actually killed another noble so that he could steal his wife, and they get caught by the guards and have to, like, flee with the evidence because the guards want to kill them to sort of, like, keep this conspiracy under wraps. And Niles actually ends up getting injured in the retreat, and he tells Silas, you know, like, leave me behind, and Silas refuses to do so because he's a good chap. He's not going to leave Niles behind. And that really moves Niles because Niles has never really had someone who actually cares about him. And in the A support, which is sort of the aftermath of this event, he goes into the fact that everyone who he sort of thought was his friend abandons him when the going gets rough, and so he just decides, like, hey, Silas, like, run, go on without me, mostly embracing the fact that he assumes that Silas is going to abandon him. Like, he's not telling Silas to leave because he cares about Silas so much as he is just sort of, like, embracing the fact that he just assumes he's going to get abandoned. And it's a little bit heartbreaking, but it is also sweet because he has finally found this friendship, or if you go the S route, this romance where he knows he can trust the person, he knows they'll be there for him, and Silas isn't going to betray him. And I think that's really touching. I really liked it. Before we go into the other gay Fates support that I wanted to touch on, I do also want to cover the supports in Gay Awakening. But I also don't want to play Awakening. So I asked fellow YouTuber Julia Kyoto to talk about some of the supports in Gay Awakening that she likes. And here's that.
Hi, I'm Julia Kyoto, and here are some of my favorite Gay Awakening supports. Let's start with Muriel and Olivia, which begins with Muriel trying to understand why the dances have the effects they do on people. So, Olivia dances a few times for Muriel, but Muriel still doesn't know what's going on. In the B support, Olivia suggests to Muriel that in order to better understand them, she should look at it from a more mathematic perspective, from a more scientific and mathematic perspective, measuring things such as her arm movements, how she moves in a more mathematic, sciencey way. Muriel agrees to do this, which leads to their A support, in which Muriel still hasn't figured out anything about how the dancing works on people. Even all of her calculations and all that haven't revealed anything. Muriel then reveals that the entire reason that she wants to the entire reason she started to begin with is she wants to understand why the dances don't have any effect on her. Muriel says that specifically why I fail to have any emotional response to your dancing. I have trouble comprehending it as more than random body movements. Yet everyone around me seems to find deeper meaning and emotion. To which Olivia responds, that's okay, so what if my dancing doesn't do anything for you? That's perfectly fine, Muriel. Muriel says it's not fine, and that she's always had difficulty connecting to art. She's never felt anything from paintings, music has just been random noise for her. And then Muriel calls herself broken. Olivia then yells at her to never say anything like that again. Olivia then says, you're not broken or anything like that. It's okay if you don't understand some things. I don't understand all the sciencey stuff you say, but that's what makes you so unique. You're one of the smartest, most talented people I know, and seeing you tear yourself down the same way I do, it hurts. Muriel is then at a loss of what to say, and then starts to piece together about how the dances actually work. Muriel then realizes that the passion that Olivia has for dancing is that passion that Muriel can also find inside of it. She observes the energy and passion that Olivia puts into the dancing and manages to find some reward and effort in that for her personally. Muriel then says, I extend my deepest gratitudes to you for talking me out of my episode. I try not to let these sorts of feelings surface in front of peers. And then Muriel says she doesn't need to hide anything and then Olivia says that Muriel doesn't need to hide anything from Olivia. Muriel then says Despite what you may think, you are incredibly clever and talented. Your kindness and consideration for others is unrivaled. You are truly a pleasure to work with. I sincerely hope you do not forget that. This sends Olivia into a blushing mess, which then Muriel asks for another dance, and Olivia dances for Muriel again. In their S support, Olivia is frantically waiting for Muriel to actually show up so that Olivia can dance for Muriel again. From there, Muriel explains that she was late to their daily meetup because Muriel wanted to make her own dance, a gratitude dance that she's based off of their friendship. Muriel then presents it, and Muriel then presents the dance, and Olivia says that while it's not going to win any competitions, she can tell that a lot of effort and love has been put into it. Olivia then says, just like everything else you do, I really love that about you. Plus, it was really cute. Muriel from there goes into a blushing mess as well. And Olivia from there Olivia starts quaking, and Muriel offers to hold hands with Olivia, while Olivia then asks her to marry her. Olivia specifically says, I'm in love with you. I'm absolutely head over heels in love with you, Muriel. Whenever I think about you, my knees get weak and my heart flutters off. When you're not with me, I miss you so much, and I just want you by my side. And when you're around me, I just feel so happy and relieved. It's like a dream. From there, Olivia offers up a ring. After a few more compliments from Olivia, Muriel responds, who would have thought, after fearing isolation my whole life, I would receive so many compliments from the woman I was hopelessly infatuated with? Olivia is surprised that Muriel feels the same way, and Muriel responds with this. You know, I find it humorous how you used the word perfect to describe me. It is the exact word I would use to describe you, Olivia. After all, you're objectively the most gorgeous human being in the land. Olivia, you've changed my life in ways vocabulary cannot describe. I graciously accept your marriage proposal. And then from there, they have one last dance at the end of their support. There's also Chrom and Frederick, one of my other favorite supports. It starts off with Chrom summoning Frederick, and this is only their S support, because their chain from C to A remains unchanged. Frederick is summoned by Chrom, and Frederick believes that something is wrong. He lists off a few things, and then eventually Chrom begins to praise Frederick. Frederick gets a bit blushy from this, and then from there, Chrom begins to explain that he needs to find someone to rule the kingdom by his side. Frederick begins to prepare a wedding after Chrom says that he's found someone, which then leads to Chrom announcing, Frederick, I want you to marry me. Chrom hands Frederick a ring, and Frederick cannot believe it. In his words exactly, I couldn't possibly. This ring belongs to the exalted family. It would be improper of me. From there, Frederick announces our relationship is to remain strictly professional. Don't you understand that? And then Chrom says, it doesn't matter to me. Every day I've sat aside and watched you pour your heart out for me, for my family. Not once did I stop thinking you deserve something more for all of it. Frederick then announces that he deserves nothing, not a ring, not a family, and certainly not a life by Chrom's side. It is simply his duty. And then Chrom announces, damn it, Frederick, I'm not proposing because I feel obliged to. I'm proposing because I love you. Frederick then responds that he also loves Chrom, in fact. From there, Chrom also announces, the last thing I want is for you to work yourself into the ground. I want to be a part of your life, Frederick. I want to share it with you. And for once, I'd just like to see a smile on your face. Perhaps even as you accept this ring, so long as you want to. Nothing could make me happier, Chrom. Huh, how amusing. From there, the two of them get married and have a very happy life. And that is all from Gay Awakening. If you'd like to, the mod will be in the description below. I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you, Julia, for that. If you haven't already, you should subscribe to Julia's YouTube channel. It will be linked below and in the end card. To wrap things up, however, I do want to touch on one more Fate support. and that is the Beruka Reina support. Since Reina is a cornsexual in the vanilla game, a lot of her personality isn't expanded on. All we get is what we have in the corn support, and her personal skill, which suggests that she enjoys killing, as well as, I guess, crit quotes, but you can't really get much from the crit quotes, because everyone just sort of says a generic crit quote. As a result of this, the modders had a lot of flexibility and liberty with how they wanted to portray Reina in these supports. And how she comes off in the Beruka support is as a very caring and understanding woman. The support chain initially focuses on their mounts, since Beruka is a wyvern rider and Reina is a Kinshi knight. Reina is taken aback by the fact that Beruka hasn't named her wyvern, and in fact Beruka thinks of her wyvern as a tool rather than a pet or a friend. Similarly to Niles earlier, Beruka's own childhood trauma has her reluctant to make friendships, because she thinks that she's best on her own. However, Reina is able to break through this hard exterior through the bonding process of grooming and naming the wyvern. Beruka realizes that as much as she doesn't want to admit it to herself, she has been thinking of the wyvern as a friend, more than just a tool. And once she finally is able to admit that she cares about her wyvern, it becomes easier for her to then start caring for other people as well, with the support eventually leading to a friendship between the two ladies that can blossom into a romance if you pursue the S support. One thing that I find absolutely adorable is that if you do go the S support route, Beruka will approach Reina's Kinshi to try to get her blessing before asking out Reina, sort of like the old-fashioned proposing to someone and asking their father for permission or stuff. I know that that's rooted in a really patriarchal and problematic stereotype, but the fact that they take it and put it to her mount, especially considering that their friendship was sort of based on Beruka learning to care about her mount and learning to, accept the sort of bond between person and animal and that loving companionship. I do just find it really touching and adorable that she's like, well, since the relationship between me and my wyvern is important, then I know the relationship between Reina and her Kinshi is important, and so I'm gonna have to go and, get her Kinshi's permission if this is gonna work out between us. And then Reina has to come in and save Beruka because the Kinshi's like, gonna kill Beruka because she thinks that it's a threat, and she has to talk her down to be like, no, this is someone I care about. It's very cute. I really like it. I like the way that it articulates, and I think it's very, very well written. I'll say what I said earlier, these new supports are better written in most cases, than the vanilla Fate supports. And yes, I know that the vanilla Fates and Awakening supports are not very good for the most part, but even then, I do think it is worth giving props to these authors, perhaps even more so, because they take the source material that's somewhat lacking and they manage to sculpt gold out of this turd. There are many, many more support chains added, and again, not all of them are romantic, so even if you just want a cool platonic support between bros being dudes or something like that, there is plenty to explore, and I would highly recommend your next foray into the 3DS era includes the Gay Fates or Gay Awakening patches. That's all I have for you today, but if you've played with either of these patches, I would love to hear what your favorite new support chain is in the comments below. Or if you want to share with the community, you can always join my Discord, where we talk about Fire Emblem and all sorts of other gay things all the time. On the topic of my Discord, there is a private channel there only for Patreon members, which is the perfect segue into a Patreon plug. So, thank you to Gameboo, Firent, Cordelia Frey, Smaz Ruby, Jamie Collins, Marin Karen, Thick Molder, George Granville the 7th PM, Danielle Kalaskis, Jagan is a Nest, Tailored Muffin, Herc, SUP, Caius Cole, Gabe the Green, Control Alt Aegis, Jeff, Autumn Kelsey, and TB. Your support is what makes these videos possible, and I am eternally grateful for that, especially in times like this. If you are interested in joining the Patreon for the Discord channel or any of the other benefits, there is a link below to do so, although bear in mind, because I am currently out of town, the credits won't be updated for a little bit. An unfortunate limitation of pre-recording all of these. Still, I appreciate the support all the less, and if you don't have the money for the Patreon, that's fine. Likes, subscriptions, comments, all that fun stuff helps as well, and regardless, I hope you have a wonderful day.